Okay. All right. Mark, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Like my new shirt?
Everybody loves your shirt. You went out to the new Trump vendor. He came back. He missed us. He must not have done as good a business at other places. So he came back.
For the home stretch. I thought maybe they got rid of him because of early voting. But no, he's here today and he's doing a good business again.
Yeah, he's doing a great business. And we're having great weather. And that's the other thing. But this whole corner now, which had nothing in terms of signage, now is the signage place in Southern Michigan. I mean, it looks literally like it looks like the United Nations on, Banner Day. It's fantastic. And although there are some people that it rubs them the wrong way, about 1/3 of the population or 1/4 of the population really don't like it at all. But I love it. Yep. And I noticed the two fingers, and we got Trump up in the back. If Trump says anything new during our broadcast regarding tariffs or trade or anything about the border, we'll cut in. If there's anything new that Trump says that he hasn't said 1,000 times already, we'll cut in.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the Twitter. This shows a little bit.
Our guy with the flags is back. Which is always...
Wind wasn't fluttering. When the wind flutters, it's just a wall of flags. The wind was down here,
and I can really see how they alter your color. When this moves from. Because look at George here on the screen.
Yeah, that's my real color.
And then what they do to it.
They're really trying to whiteify me. I mean, they really don't. I think it's the whole Elizabeth Warren thing. They're trying to level out the Cherokee-ness. But look at it, very ghost-like.
Yeah.
It's not well done at all.
Almost green under the gills,
Yeah, it looks like I'm sick or whatever. And stuff going on.
There's nothing wrong with your TV set.
Nothing wrong. I'm really that Cherokee. But anyway, that's the new color they're putting out in the Pantone is Cherokee, and they used my skin as the base color. So anyway,
it helps Elizabeth.
Yeah, it makes her look. And if you ever have seen her, she is a ghost. And I mean, I saw her all the time on Capitol Hill. She is a ghost. I see people talking about the election stuff where they check in and then their name is assigned to another person, right? And a different name comes up. And I think this is the thing is just go ahead and throw in a whole bunch of new names that they know that they can get IDs for and just see if people vote. And if they do, then they'll just switch those names to somebody else. I just think.
Well, it's good, almost good we're doing the early voting because it's starting to filter some of the stuff out now, so we're not having these issues a week after the election.
Yeah, so. But in Pennsylvania and then also in Wisconsin, they said no, we're not going to check the early votes, which is crazy because that's the way you can keep up with your rolls. My sis went to vote early and somebody else's name showed up. Yeah, crazy. I've heard she said she was in Wisconsin. I think you mentioned this might have happened in Pennsylvania as well. Yeah.
Bucks County, where they closed early for early voting because there was too many people there. So that was why Trump came out, and anyhow, the RNC sued and they got the polls reopened because they were closing at 2:30 in the afternoon because there were too many people.
At Bucks County? Yeah. Bucks County, not too far from New York. And we talked about the immigrants in all the hotels, 100 different hotels filled up with immigrants, and not that whatever New York City wants to do with their immigration policy is fine with me. It's none of our business, but don't have them come over the state line into Bucks County and vote in the Pennsylvania election. You're not a citizen. So Trump just said, answer to the test. Did you see that? Trump just is now imitating our show, and that's the answer to the test. This is the guy here who's talking right now is the guy who leads the auto workers. He's the guy who leads UAW. And he spoke a week ago when Trump was in Warren. You just wonder why Trump's coming back to Warren only a week later. Mark, you have any thoughts on that? Is it just because of the enthusiasm or just because of this guy or bringing him back? Or he also spoke in Novi as well.
Michigan's important, and I think there's a good chance of him being able to take this election.
Labor? You think these are labor meetings they're setting up there because that's a big Chrysler and
well, because he's been talking about tariffs, and tariffs are one of the things that have been an issue with the automobile industry for generations. Because we should be able to, sell our vehicles just as easily as, the foreign competitors are able to sell their vehicles in this country.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people, back in the 80s, they were driving these expensive BMWs and, and Mercedes. And they were able to do that because of foreign exchange. The differences in the values of the currency. So you could take, your dollars bought you more Deutschmarks or whatever. That's why there were so many BMWs and that in the country back in the 80s, because of foreign exchange and tariffs. It was,
almost no tariff at all. And BMW and Mercedes both now in Alabama and Georgia, I believe, or Alabama, there's 2 plants. So they're making their cars here. So they won't be affected by a big crank. But Tesla, being a Fremont, California factory and the Gigafactory, which is the battery factory that Elon has in Sparks, Nevada. I don't know about you, Mark, but I see Elon campaigning again today in Pennsylvania. I see subsidies coming for EVs for the Cybertruck and the Cybercab if Elon's in there. They say government efficiency, Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, but I think it could be Department of Government subsidy for Cybertruck and Cybercab. What do you think?
I'm not sure how that plays out.
Do you think with all this campaigning here in all the swing states, don't you think he's going to owe Trump something?
Yeah, but it gets back to, subsidies are like playing favorites, in the marketplace. That's the only reason why I, wouldn't like it.
As a purist, you don't like it.
Right.
But I'm just saying, is there a quid pro quo with Elon, with him?
Well, if we have
space is the other question.
If we have to do this to be competitive in the global marketplace, then I guess yes. So that we can be able to sell our electric vehicles in other countries or something like that.
Well, that's a good thought. I mean, if we could prove it out here, prove the proof of concept here with the tunnels going beneath the major cities. I'm just talking about the 85 or 80 major cities, the Hillary Clinton centers where she puts in all the votes in at 3:00 in the morning. If those had a hyperloop underneath them, and then it was, Cybertrucks for delivery and Cybercabs, you wonder if that wouldn't take make it a lot more pleasant to walk in New York, where you're not constantly.
Well, and I don't know, just remember waterbeds?
Yeah.
Everybody had waterbeds back in the 70s. And then there was this scandal about the electric heater that you would put under the waterbed to heat the water to keep it, that it would be letting off electromagnetic radiation, could be affecting your body. When you're in one of these electric vehicles, the way they're currently constructed, you're dealing with the same things.
Okay.
But we don't see waterbeds anymore because one of the things that got rid of them was the electromagnetic radiation from the electric heaters under the beds.
There's a lot of people riding around in Teslas going 0 to 60 in 4 seconds that are sitting on way more electromagnetic radiation than the old waterbeds. I mean, these Tesla S's and
you go see the TGV high-speed train, in France, and that's electric, and all of the maintenance vehicles are made out of wood.
Right.
It's like so.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure, any more than putting the earbuds in your ears. It's just good for you.
Right. Okay.
Well,
you're the silver shark. You're the silver shark. So I don't expect you to answer all the EMF questions. So I don't mean to.
So those are just questions that I'm asking. But for more maybe intelligent people to
maybe silver will become a conductor and also a thing that doesn't radiate as much. Elon loves stainless steel. Elon loves stainless steel over carbon fiber. So okay. We are going to be picking up. This is great new news. We've talked about neighborhood news, and of course, we've added neighborhood health. We launched neighborhood health yesterday with Carol McIntosh. We had a whole week with Carol here and Tara here with neighborhood health. We'll add neighborhood health with Amber Connor as a correspondent after the election. If she wins in her election in Atlanta, we'll see her infrequently. If she loses, and probably not lose, but if she does, unlikely event of her loss, we'll see Amber Connor. So we've got our whole 4 correspondents for neighborhood health. I wrote a Substack this morning at gweb.substack.com on the neighborhood health issues. We're going to be covering vaccines and then bioagents on that area. But now we're building out neighborhood wealth. Mark is the silver shark. He's also the gold shark. He's also precious metal shark.
Well, let me qualify that,
Okay.
because like this, I'm the silver shark because that was the name of the first like modem that I had gotten, and that was like the default name for it.
But
and
you were going to make this place a silver. You know,
well,
you're gonna do silver at some point.
But the silver shark came because Aaron's friends back, when he was in college, they used to call him the shark.
Right.
So I just decided I would become the silver shark.
The silver shark.
I had silver hair,
That's right.
That was
there we go.
But
I think as far as wealth, we talk about tariffs, and Mark immediately says, "Oh, that's McKinley." McKinley raised more money in tariffs than he didn't need an income tax. And so Mark does a lot of the financial issues. I didn't know, for instance, Delaware and Kentucky were slave states, but they didn't join the Confederacy.
Yeah,
little facts like that.
And that comes back to the whole Juneteenth. When they were celebrating Juneteenth, down in Texas, you still had slaves in Kentucky and Delaware that weren't emancipated until the Constitution was amended later in the year, like in December.
So they didn't all come in at once, is what
Right.
you're saying.
Yeah.
When Lincoln signed the Emancipation. Yeah, the McKinley tariffs. And we learned today that McKinley's running mate, who he was on the ticket with in 1896, was probably poisoned so that Teddy Roosevelt could be on the ticket in 1900. So,
well, the country was bankrupt in 1896. They had to borrow like $100 million from J.P. Morgan. The tariffs must have been, the means in which to pay back that loan, but
quickly turned around the country.
Yeah.
Tariffs quickly turned the country around. I think that's what Trump's going with this is the tariffs work immediately. Tariffs, work by executive order. They don't filter down. Immediately, the customs is ready to put in any amount of money on any product, the system that they have at the customs and border.
Well, it's a guise, really, because the whole idea with free trade and global trade, is to, destroy our market.
Right.
We didn't need
to exfiltrate all of our technology to China.
Yeah. Because we don't need it. We didn't need it then. We made everything. And that was where the Chinese were. Okay. But, the British came to them for tea. We were a self-contained, economy. We have everything we need. We don't need anything from you.
So the free trade is really a way of exfiltrating all the intellectual property and all the industry out of a country. And it's a code word. It's not really free trade. It's a code word.
Or communism or socialism.
Right. A race to the bottom. We can buy factories in horrible places and we can build them there and we can suck all your intellectual property that you paid for with blood, sweat, and tears. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we'll destroy your country. And then you'll have rust belts, right? Or worse, nothing. This is dust belts. Yeah.
As a nation, we've been being scrapped out since like the mid 1980s.
Yeah.
As far as industries, being packed up and moving. We use that term forklift out when you were talking about American glass research, but that's pretty much true, of most of what's happened to this country. It's been bought off, packed up, and shipped overseas.
And like Bain Capital, we're not just saying Democrats, we're saying Republicans like Mitt Romney as well with Bain Capital. Same thing, Boston Consulting Group, just as bad. So anyway, on the subject of wealth, the best wealth that you can
one George Webb here at America.
The best possible. He's going to drive straight into our
this morning. The big news
this morning. He's going to drive straight in. Thank God we have some concrete posts.
And the election is
for the flags.
October surprise
for
the election.
One of the things about
of course, Jack Smith. Jack Smith has put out this guy who's doggedly going after Donald Trump
straight off the street, straight at him.
Methodology.
I don't know if that's Todd
Jack
or not,
Smith
is
put out his October surprise about Donald Trump.
Todd's guns is next door, so
January 6th,
very close to the Second Amendment.
My DNC lawsuit case.
We get a lot of folks
is the judge for this case,
wondering about broadcasts and so forth.
This was the big case.
If we're really live and really
Trump was
true
trying to
and
hold
real,
this
we really are.
2,000-page dossier back.
So
let's hold this
come on
dossier
in.
back.
Come on in. Come on in. It's all Trump all the time. We're talking Trump.
That's what we're talking about.
All right. Hey, see, we got people coming in off the
You
street.
guys looking for signs or?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Todd's got signs next door if he's open. We don't have anything to give out.
But if you guys want to say hi to our
we
studio
do a
audience,
live broadcast, or the guy selling them.
or the guy selling them next door, or Todd next door.
We got money.
All right.
Neighborhood news.
Right next door, right outside
He's
is
giving away signs? Or
he's giving away Trump signs, and right outside he's selling Trump flags. All right. Thanks for coming.
NNhour.com for us.
NNhour.com for us. Yeah.
All right.
Neighborhood
Take
news
a
hour,
book
yeah.
if you want. Okay. So that's
Push.
all right. Here we go. 4 days to go. So yeah, that's great part about being on the street here is we get Trump people just coming in, going, keep going, guys. Keep doing what you're doing. So anyway, we're adding this curriculum to neighborhood health. It's really about or wealth. Excuse me. It's really about your kids. It's really about you having an alternative to sending them off to a school where the teachers are not very interested. The curriculum has been DEI'd and watered down. They don't even bother. They talk about feelings for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years. Now once they get old enough to be, into puberty, then we start with the transgender agenda. If you want a difference to that, we're only trying to find a way. We were Liberty Learning Center, both Aaron and Mark. They provided STEM training. It was shut down by Whitmer, shut down by coronavirus. But we have a curriculum. We've identified a partner here that lives right down the road. He was a top guy in Tennessee. They had the top curriculum in Franklin, Tennessee. And they said, look, you got to get a shot. And he said, no, I'm not going to get a shot.
Mhm.
And then they started nitpicking him because they couldn't go at him on the shot. So he's the number one guy in Franklin, Tennessee, which is the number one school system where all the movie stars are now leaving Los Angeles, flying into Franklin, Tennessee. And finally he says, look, guys, this is not worth it. I'm leaving. I'm going to take my curriculum and go. So what we're talking about is he sells his curriculum. He's a top educator. He ran all the AP classes. This is how you make your kid a doctor, by the way. This is how you make your kid a nurse. This is how you make your kid an engineer with AP history, with AP biology, AP chemistry, AP biochem, AP calculus. This is how you make your kid a doctor or a nurse or an engineer. And so we're going to be, it's his curriculum. You can either buy the whole curriculum without any teaching. It can be assisted teaching with Zoom, or it can be in a neighborhood school like this, or any combination thereof. And what all we're looking for is 10,000 more Mark Buckleys. All you need to do is find a home for the school. You have a place near a coffee shop in your downtown that's maybe not as vibrant economically as it should be. Like this place was, I'm not going to say a rat hole, but it was pretty darn, dead here on this corner. And Mark plunked the money down. Aaron plunked the sweat equity in. I came in. We completely tore this place apart. We painted it, put the stuff up on the walls, thanks to Mark. And all of a sudden now it's a great environment where people want to come in off the street and be a part of it all. And that's what we need to do. We built the model. That's what we want to do. 10,000, 3,300 counties now in the United States, 3,150 of them won by Donald Trump in the last 2 elections. We don't necessarily need to have the 80 biggest cities that Hillary won. If you want to open one in downtown New York, neighborhood news, great, but we think the rent would be high. But there's a lot of property all across the country. We could build 100,000 of these things. Again, we're going to farm out and syndicate the content so that you have a choice. And you know the person who came in today, she's been in 3 or 4 times lining this up.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about it? Because you're the one who actually put the money down.
As far as
The school and making a kind of a place where people can meet, like a reading room, etc.
yeah, because with that all because like once they started like getting rid of smoking in bars and restaurants, that was really all about stopping people from intermingling and communicating. And this is an attempt, to get people together and talk about the issues of the day. I don't know how well, like, had there been, because when you go into a bar or a restaurant, people sit there and they smoke and they drink and they kibitz and, solve all the world's problems, all around the bar there. That's all gone.
Yeah. They used to do that in coffee houses a little bit as well. And there was
there's
just
a
some
newspaper,
clubs.
same thing, coffee in a newspaper, and you could sit, in a coffee shop, and you don't do that anymore. I mean, the newspapers got, they killed, one of their biggest, customers was the cigarette smoker in the coffee shop.
That's where all the gamblers were too.
Yeah.
Remember the daily racing form that they used to have at the cigar shops and so forth. And that was a big part of your, that was a big part of your newspaper business when you were doing that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And, you stop at 7-Eleven and get a cup of coffee, but you pick up a newspaper, dude, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
It's just, but anyhow, the whole idea is some way to, create a social environment here that's just not going to get in, okay, no, we don't have a liquor license. No, we're just a reading room, just donations. It's just,
we don't sell anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have, a lot of information here that's available because there's a lot of people that wear the red hats that aren't really up on the issues. And there's plenty of books over here on probably any particular topic that, like, Trump talks about, that you could, come up and, could be the hot singer, if you want to know about, Mena, Arkansas, or, you want to know, and, what was his name? Barry Seal, that kind of,
those kind of things. Iran-Contra,
the
Gary Webb,
the Bush crime family.
Whitney Webb. Yeah. We promote Whitney Webb, so it's not just the old timers. Yeah.
Because most places you go, most bookstores are, they're pretty much left controlled places, and like books that are, and these probably are other people's books here too, but you're not going to necessarily find them, in a front stack. You're going to have to go dig through, obscure shelves and that to find a lot of these, or they're just in the back room. I remember, like, somebody, Michael Savage, used to talk about, we have this book, and they go out, and you go in the bookstore, and they're still in boxes in the back room. They wouldn't even put them out, because they didn't want the information to be, disseminated, or that narrative to catch hold.
But I would say most of our books, are just conversation pieces. Mm-hmm. We never mostly get beyond the cover, because we start talking about the book and start talking, summarize the book. And I start saying, well, I went and saw Hopsker, 20 times. And, I can tell you all about that Barry and the boys, or I can tell you all about that, Terrorland or whatever. And because most of the books that are on that table, we either helped the author write the book, or or I wrote the book, or we've
had those people here.
We've had those people here, or we've at least talked to them over Doug Valentine or whatever. Even people at TDS, we've talked to them and interviewed them. So A.W. Finnegan and John O'Loughlin, all these people we've talked to. Most of the Trine Day publishers and authors we've talked to, or know one of us. And people are coming in and out all the time. And what we want to do is say, hey, if you want to do something like this in Little Rock, or Mena, you can do it. Mark can go through the numbers with you, but it was the rent is pretty cheap. It's $1,200 a month. It's not too bad. You got to pay insurance and other stuff on top of that. But, you get a couple of cans of paint, you put some stuff up on the walls, you put an inviting sign outside, let everybody know how you feel. Part of the problem is everybody's hiding in their mother's basement. They won't put out the flag, and they won't, because we've been conditioned not to. We've been conditioned to hide, and we've been conditioned to say we can't have a place. Sometimes somebody comes in and it looks like he's Edward G. Robinson and wants to.
We had a breakout here though, with because we put this corner up.
Yeah,
and then the flag guy shows up, selling all of his. So this has become like a major Trump corner.
Yeah.
And you see the people come in, they want to get a sign. So people this election are more inclined to put a yard sign out. They're not going to be worried about somebody setting it on fire or stealing it, but they are getting stolen in that. But they're not afraid to support Trump, outwardly.
Yeah, and that's a big change because there's been so much programming. And I made this comment earlier today and the guy came in, he was really upset. He said, Trump wants to steal my Social Security. And I said, I've never heard Trump say that. Mark was right there with me saying, Trump's never said he wanted your Social Security. Quite the opposite. I don't think Trump would. But this ad of a woman saying, I felt like I was slapped in the face by Trump because I earned that money. That's my retirement. I'm going to take the money out of my savings. I'm going to bury it in the backyard so Trump can't get at it. We have had these round the clock ads, just blatant lies, but they're beyond lies. Gary Trudeau with the huge.
That's why I bring this.
Yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah.
Only in so much as let me come back.
That book probably set the tone for Trump.
This is a collection of all of Gary Trudeau's Trump series.
And that's 20 years old.
Started in like 87 when
30.
Trump was actually 88. When Reagan was finished in 88, Trump had initially put out some feelers about running for president. And anyhow, it had been Gary Trudeau, 87. Ever since the release of the first Trump for president trial blew in 87. This has been his assignment. This is, in my mind, this is the Donald Trump that causes Trump derangements. And I was working at the Dallas Times-Herald, and I particularly remember this because the newspapers, in a cross-cutting, were reducing the web width of the newspaper. They're not as wide. They used to be big broadsheets, and they're about 2/3 of the size of what they used to be. Well, to reduce the size of the paper also meant like the comic strips had to be reduced in size, to an extent too. And Doonesbury had gotten into this. No, you have to keep my comic strip at this, the old standard size. They got into even a battle with the Blade. They said, well, we just won't run your comic strip, whatever. But I mean, you just look at the back cover. Every word that you ever hear come out of somebody's mouth about Trump is on the on the inside, back cover and on the front cover of this comic book. But his, he is, he's.
I'll read a couple. Go ahead.
It goes back with Marla Maples. So you'll go back, if you go back through it, it's like events that went on, with Trump over the time. That
really pathetic, dumb as a rock, incompetent, disgusting, dummy, hopeless, dishonest, hater, racist, goofball, atheist, lightweight, these are all insults of Trump or things that people have called Trump. Yeah. So anyway, I remember, I'm trying to remember when Mayor Daley was, and then the little guy who came in, Bloomberg, who came in as mayor. But I remember the city, I wasn't there yet, but the city went out bankrupt, right? And then
under AB
Lindsay, and so
that's when the bankers took over New York, kind of,
right. And there was a big buyout, and then if you remember, they couldn't get the ice rink going at Central Park, and they said it was going to be a 4-year project, and all the kids wanted to skate that winter, and so Trump got it done in 3 months, and that was kind of his first kind of, oh, this is a wonder kind. And then he started buying all the real estate. He put in Trump Tower, I think, in a pretty fast record time. I think Trump Tower has been around since 89, 90, or somewhere in there. That was his first really big landmark. But then he started buying all this property, and because he could condo it out, basically, and then his name. Also, he was able to just do naming rights on some of the stuff where he didn't take an equity position. Plus, he had good inside connections with the mob and Roy Cohn with Tony Salerno to get the concrete. You don't start any projects in Manhattan without Tony Salerno's concrete with the Genovese crime family. All those things kind of came together with Wilbur Ross and the Rothschild banking money. And then they, after he kind of got his footprint in Manhattan. Then it wasn't too long after that that he got into the casinos.
And think of the political contributions that he made to both parties over all those years, and,
Yes.
and how much they loved him for
Yeah.
for his philanthropy and
Whoopi Goldberg kissing him, Oprah kissing him.
But how dare you run
hugging.
for president? We just want your money. We don't want you.
Yeah. Yeah. They, I think Joe Rogan made a comment about this where, 2014, they were showing him going on The View and how all the people were fawning all over him and kissing and hugging and now you hear the story and he's a pariah and he's Hitler and all these things. I just, when it comes to people literally being told they're going to lose their retirement when they hear that ad 50 times a day, and it's a dangerous ad.
But you always, the Democrats have a policy of, and that started really big with Clinton, always accuse your opponent of what you're doing. So, I take it away, and that means, and we've heard that, that they want to raise the retirement age and reduce benefits. But it means that it is going to happen if something occurs, but Trump's saying that it's not. I don't know. I think in a few years, what's the alternative to Trump? What is the alternative to Trump?
Yeah, well, I just don't think in any world there would possibly be cut the Social Security. You could inflate the rest of the federal budget to water down the percentage of Social Security, maybe.
Well, when you're sending money to Ukraine and Iran, or all over the world, it's then there's money for Social Security. Yeah,
we have another visitor. Hey,
we have this guy.
another one of the great contributors to the neighborhood news has walked in. He sent us 2 microphones today. We got to thank him very much. The visitor from Traverse City. That's all we can say under our non-disclosure secrecy algorithm. But yeah, that's where Pete Buttigieg wants to now live, and he wants to raise with his male partner. He wants to raise a kid. He wants to become the next two kids. He wants to become the next governor to take over Gretchen Whitmer, and Gretchen Whitmer wants to become the next senator, I believe. So I think we really have to, get Mike Rogers out there. We got to tell people this Slotkin is a CIA agent. Yeah. This is a person who was in Baghdad, who I'm not saying she ran Abu Ghraib, but that's what the CIA did over there. They were doing the rendering. They were doing the prisoner fetching. They were doing the interrogations. They weren't doing the fighting in Fallujah like the Marines were. They weren't doing, the army and all this stuff. They were doing the interrogations. They were the ones that were doing Abu Ghraib. This is the person now that's running for senator in Michigan. I can't believe it.
I was watching earlier while we were doing things set up and Aaron was gone. I came across in my YouTube feed a press conference with Huntley and Brinkley with John F. Kennedy. And I stopped on it because it was
way back.
It was on my birthday in 1963,
Okay.
So 9th of September. So I had to stop and I listened to it for a while. It was, and they were talking about Vietnam, but Kennedy had indicated there at the time, that the CIA and the Defense Department and the State Department, they all coordinated, everything. And it was almost like the way the CIA really orchestrated everything, or actually did the bidding of the DOD and the State Department. Right. But it was almost like an incestuous relationship. And Kennedy didn't go in so far as, saying he was going to blow the CIA to a million pieces or anything like that. But he was aware of, things like the domino effect and,
But you remember all that domino effect stuff where if we lose Vietnam, we're going to lose Thailand, we're going to lose Cambodia, we're going to lose, Laos, we're going to lose, Korea, we're going to lose the whole Malay Peninsula, we're going to lose Australia. None of that happened.
But what
none of that happened.
What he brought up in there too is something that we forgot about, because we talk about NATO, but he was talking about SEATO, which used to be the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, right, which is what dragged us into Vietnam, because it was the same kind of a deal, an attack, essentially there on the French,
Article 5
attack on us. Okay, yeah. But SEATO disappeared. It doesn't exist.
They're retooling it now. They want to bring these people back in under NATO, right? That's the new thing they're talking about is extending the NATO treaty to Malaysia and these.
I'm thinking it went out in like 70, might have been during Carter, but
right after the Vietnam War, Seattle went out. Yeah.
And it's, and if that can go away, then the same reason NATO needs to go away. It should have gone away in 91 when the Soviet Union fell. Okay. It's only there to provide jobs for bureaucrats who consume and produce nothing except war.
Right. And I think Kissinger had a lot to do with Seattle because I think he wanted to negotiate with China, and he really wanted to get on the inside track of China to use China as a bulwark against the Soviet Union before the Soviet Union fell. Mm-hmm. And that's why he toned down the Seattle. But now I'm pretty sure that NATO is now, whoever heard of North Atlantic, right, including Malaysia. Mm-hmm. They not only they're not only an anachronism, not only obsolete at the end of the Soviet war, now they want to expand. Mm-hmm. They've gone to 30 countries. When NATO ended in 91, or the Soviet Union, there was only 15 countries in NATO. Mm-hmm. So now they've gone to 30, and now they want more. They want Ukraine in there as 31, and so on.
Well, maybe it's you're in the United Nations or you're in NATO, but you can't be in both. Something like that. Well,
that's the whole basis of world government, though, is to get them both. I mean, once you are dependent, the government's dependent on those on the military-industrial complex, then you can slot in your slotkins, right? You put your slotkins into the government, and then you own the government, right? Mm-hmm. And you
do it with fiat money.
We already have, I think, 10% of the representatives in Congress have some form of intelligence background that have served in our. This is crazy. I mean, if we want the CIA to be the legislature, we should just move all the stuff from Capitol Hill and move it out to Langley.
Well, we've seen what Operation Mockingbird did to the media. Okay, so you can imagine what that same participation is doing anywhere else it goes.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Melissa Slotkin has no experience in any kind of government, right? I mean, she's an intelligence officer, right? So my point is that we're only going to have more military-industrial complex, right? There's only going to be more military projects. It could be military batteries, military planes, military Skoda with the planes up there with the horizontal takeoff, SpaceX. It could be like those kind of military projects, but it could be a whole bunch of other things, dark projects and covert projects, right? Because they go to Michigan because they know it's one of theirs, that they can run this kind of MK Ultra and this type of thing. They could run it in Michigan. So this is the thing that's disturbing about Slotkin. Not only, I mean, Mike Rogers ran the Intelligence Committee in the Congress. So he's not only been on the Intelligence Committee, he's run the Intelligence Committee. And that's from a legislative point of view, not from somebody who's an insider CIA operative. So we'll go to some of the comments really quickly. We'll have more word for you on the curriculum that we have coming. We'll be doing a series of, this is for AP high school classes. It's all high school curriculum, concentrating on the STEM. This is the original Liberty Learning Center curriculum. So again, you can buy the curriculum. We don't make a dime on it. You can go with a teacher-assisted curriculum, or we're going to do the small groups. What we really would like to see is the old neighborhood news, where it was sort of like a PTA, where you'd have a couple of parents come in who were willing to tutor at night for the hard classes, to pass your AP test, to cram for the AP tests in the calc, in the advanced math, and then your sciences. And that was what you guys had before. I've met a lot of the instructors. There were the PhDs. A lot of them taught at Michigan. So a lot of them were some of the top instructors in Michigan. And we are here with the University of Toledo. We have a great talent pool for professors. And we have Mercy, and then what's the other one? Lourdes. Yeah. So we have a lot of talent here, as well as the community college here in town. So I'm excited about neighborhood wealth, neighborhood education, health education, and welfare. I guess it would be called our health education and wealth. And that's the big exciting news that I have. How about the election? How about what's that?
Substack?
Oh yeah, we can do the Substack real quick. Wrote a Substack this morning, GeorgeWebb.substack.com. Basically, it's watergating. I call watergating where you not necessarily take the person out with an October surprise because let's say the October surprise doesn't really land fully like Watergate came out. If you remember, a couple of weeks before the 72 election, Nixon won in a huge landslide. So it's not like you're doing an October surprise where you're altering the election like Reagan and Carter. Watergating is putting your foot in the door and saying, oh, there's an asterisk to your win, and now we're going to go investigate you for that. The Mueller report was a Watergating. The original Watergate, of course, was Richard Nixon, where there was a year and a half of hearings, and finally
Don't forget the resignation of Spiro T. Agnew. They drove him out of office too. That kind of was the matinee performance. Watergate.
But he might have been guilty of everything he did. But anyway,
but that stench, got on to, well, because Agnew was corrupt. Well, Nixon must be corrupt too.
Right. They kind of programmed everybody, preset everybody with Agnew. Agnew was just kind of took bribes, but this round, it was Michael Cohen last time.
Governor of Maryland. Okay.
Yeah, it was governor of Maryland. Remember, he had the law firm in Maryland.
Well, they eat their own,
Yeah. I mean, Maryland. But this time it's Boris Epstein. If you remember, Michael Cohen, again, Trump lawyer, you're allowed to sign a confidentiality agreement with anybody you want to. If he wanted to make sure Stormy Daniels went away for whatever reason, even if the claims were false, consensual, whatever, and said $300,000 and confidentiality agreement, you give that money to your lawyer. The lawyer signs the confidentiality agreement, draws it up. They sign the confidentiality papers, and then you sign a check and you give them the check. That's what Michael Cohen should have done. What did Michael Cohen do instead? He took the $300,000, he put it in his personal account, then wrote an invoice, a voucher, and a bill. I can't remember what the third device is, to make the first 3 felonies of Trump, right? And then he did it for every month for 24 months, and that created 72 felonies. That gave the impression that Trump was paying out payola every month when nothing of the sort. Michael Cohen put all those things in front of him. He signed them all. He signed all 72 things. And then he said Trump knew about all that stuff. And that created 75 felonies. Did you hear at the trial, Michael Cohen falsified 75 documents to make it look like Trump made 75 felonies? No. Trump was a criminal and did 75 felonies. He must be really bad. This is the same exact thing that's happening right now with Boris Epstein promising presidential appointments. He's out there promising presidential appointments. They had Joe Rogan talk about Trump. It's a time bomb, like under the Resolute desk there in the Oval Office. 10,000 different appointments. This is going to be 10,000 different appointments that they're going to say Trump had a quid pro quo in order to get elected. And they're putting the bomb under the Resolute desk as we speak with Boris Epstein. And he's done it. I knew Boris 8 years ago, used to meet him down right off Pennsylvania Avenue. He's been the guy who commits, when these guys are informants and they have immunity, they go out and commit as many crimes as they can. And then because they know they're not going to get arrested, they know that they're then going to trade immunity to say, my boss told me to do it, right? Michael Cohen did it. It's the same thing is going to happen with Boris Epstein. That's the piece that I wrote this morning on Substack, the watergating of Trump. So, and there.
But it's a game plan.
Yeah.
They've run this. That's, I guess, where we're all at it. Those of us are still young enough to still be alive, to recall, that it's, it's the same, it's like it's a soap opera. It's the same things, but it's different characters.
We've
but
seen
it's the
this
same,
thing.
It's the same play.
We've seen this plot how many times now since Nixon? 50 years of this.
Because that's what the Russia collusion was. That was just like a redo on Watergate. Iran-Contra was an attempted take Reagan out
to Watergate Reagan. Absolutely.
It's always, it's like, well, Republicans, well, we gotta run impeachment. Okay. Yep. It's like, it doesn't work anymore. Just like all the racists that you claim, they've all died. There's nobody left that has any liberal guilt anymore. They're all in the grave. Okay. It's like this. You took, the academy was taken over by the left in the 1960s. Why didn't you get rid of racism? That was one of the first things that you were going to deal with. It should have been gone 50 years ago. Why is it still there? Doesn't that say something about the academy?
Yeah. Well,
it's like
they want racism to stay around so that they can have a group that they can call on and activate to violence.
Yeah.
Right. When they need to, like right now. Right.
But
we see that happening.
We're not buying that BS anymore.
Right.
Okay. It's that dog don't hunt.
Right. And I think even people of color are tired of it as well.
And they've all died too.
Right.
This is like this, like Brown versus Board of Education. That was 1954. Who's around that was alive in 1954? I mean, there's still a few of the, but there are those senile boomers that still watch CNN and stuff. But but for the most part, 80% of the world has come after that.
Right.
Okay. And we've seen it get better, but we had room 222. In fact, when I went to high school at the Vilbus, we really had like a room 222 environment there. We had blacks and whites, and we got along fine.
But people don't know what you mean when you say a room 222, but I know what you mean because you had Horshack, the Jewish kid, and you had
that was Cotter, but it was
Cotter.
But
Cotter was sort of a room 222, only a funny version of room 222.
Yeah,
it was an integrated United Nations classroom, is what we're talking about.
Yeah, what they wanted, okay, but now they don't want it anymore, okay, because it just always has to be wrong because they have a solution to fix it, but nothing's ever going to get fixed because the revolution, it's about the revolution and it's a continuous thing. And the issue is not the issue. The issue is the revolution, right?
Right. It is communism. At the end of the day, I think you were saying this before, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. I was a Kennedy Democrat and I was just sitting here on the bench, and then everybody became a communist and left me. I was having a good time. Why did you guys? Kennedy would probably be a conservative now, right? Given his there's room 222. Who was the black teacher?
Lloyd Haynes.
And then I can't remember.
And Karen Valentine was in it, and that Michael Constantine was the principal. But it was this was it ran for a few years, but this was the idealistic world that this is how it could be. Well, how come it didn't become this? Okay, who controlled the educational system since this is like 1970 or 71 probably? Yeah, that we're looking at here.
I love 222.
You didn't fix anything.
Yeah, I think they're actually these shows. Remember the Brady Bunch was the first broken family. The first melded family. All these shows that showed people with real, not perfect families, Ozzie and Harriet, or Leave It to Beaver families. It really did help everyone kind of understand that not everybody came from a perfect family.
Right.
And I do think. I mean, I was from a high school that was 40% black, and we had race riots when I was in school. But I mean, a lot of we came a long way. That was in the 70s, right? That was a long time ago. And riot probably is too strong a word, but that's what they called them. But that really, hammering that over and over for 50 years. Yeah. Every time you want to win an election just gets old after a while. If I was a person of color, I'd feel the same way. It's like, come on, let's talk about jobs for a minute, or talk about schools, or talk about roads or something. Yeah. Just stop talking about race all the time. And I think a lot of black males, we saw Mike Rogers up here a little bit earlier, a lot of black males really like the fact that Trump doesn't cater to that.
Well, they can identify with him being prosecuted and being beat up by the legal system because black men get beat up and prosecuted, by the legal system.
Yeah.
So they're actually seeing somebody, that's taking it for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're going to look what they do to this white guy,
Yeah.
This was but you got people out of jail. Okay. But I mean, that's just, because if you've been in jail or been a convict and you see them doing this stuff to this man that's going to be president, you're going to take a certain respect and admiration for the guy.
Yeah.
And the fact
I've seen
that,
a lot of that. Benny Johnson's done a lot of those kind of clips and so forth where he does well with the rappers. Trump hung out with a lot of rappers for a while, a lot of boxers.
Well, the Dana White with the
MMA,
mixed, because he stood loyal with Trump, and
Trump is on a lot of video beating up people at MMA events. I think some of that's fake, but I think Trump had a long stretch with Dana White at MMA, or like several years.
Well, because he went for there were like the boxing interests and others where it was too violent. We can't
But Tyson for sure.
Yeah.
P. Diddy, you can see him there. A lot of the rappers, I can't remember all of them, but like a lot of the Suge Knight, Snoop Dogg.
But he needed them to help fill his casino in Atlantic City and stuff. So but he did business with all these people, and
Jesse Jackson, he had the Rainbow Coalition in the first floor of the Trump Tower. And Jesse Jackson doesn't seem to mention that when it comes time to talk about Trump right now. I think this is kind of like selective amnesia. There with Joe Rogan. Is that Joe Rogan? No. That's Dana White. Yeah, I was going to say I couldn't see from behind my. Is Joe Rogan that tall?
I see this one. This Full Send podcast on Rumble. I haven't seen it on YouTube, which kind of deals with the mixed martial arts. It's a bunch of young guys, and Trump will come on and interview with them. And here he is with young people. And it's like a one-on-one, and you're talking, it's like talking to somebody in the bar, even, where you talk to the Democrats, they're going to talk down to you, or they're not going to talk to you because you're not at their level.
You're not on the private plane with them. Mm-hmm. Michael Jackson, I remember. Yeah, Trump. I met Jesse Jackson on Capitol Hill, and I watched him walk across the hill. And I said, "Any comments about Donald Trump?" And he just gave me the dirtiest look. He gave me the dirtiest look.
The only thing, because there were people. I think one of those. He had a fight in Atlantic City that was really built up. And I can't remember who it was.
Oh, it was the Sugar Ray Leonard fight, or Hitman Hearns.
It was over in 30 seconds. You didn't even have a chance to drink your beer. And all all these people like you cheated us. We spent all this money on this fight, and it's over in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think. There should be some
the World Football League.
Larry Holmes, he was in the WHO.
Created that, trying to compete, to take on the NFL. So we created that World Football League.
A lot of people said he was in the locker room a little too much. The coach didn't like Trump coming down to the locker room at halftime. The Tennessee Generals, remember Tennessee Generals? He said, "Hey, you should be passing more. What the hell are you doing running the ball? You got to show some imagination."
Well, I didn't say anything about Charlie Finley running the Oakland A's,
right,
or Steinbrenner. Running the Yankees,
or Jerry Jones running the Dallas Cowboys from the press box. That happens too. So, is there any pictures with Tyson? Because he used to hang around with Tyson a lot.
Yeah,
he loved in Atlantic City when I was down there. When I lived in down that way, he just seemed like he liked to be seen with fighters all the time. And he personally, there he is. He personally liked riding in the limo with them and stuff. He really enjoyed the fight game, I think, with the casinos. He knew how good it was for casinos because it brought in high rollers too. And he was competing with high rollers. Mohegan Sun hadn't opened yet in Connecticut, so he was kind of the only game in town.
Did he screw Merv Griffin, in that Resorts deal?
Resorts International?
Remember, because didn't he sell out to Merv?
Merv Griffin, there was Resorts International was so mob connected.
Yeah.
You know, I think the Resorts International was connected to BCCI and the CIA and everybody,
Yeah.
Khashoggi and all those guys. And just you had all the. I mean, it was kind of like the dumping laundry mat for every CIA operation all over the world, and they were using Trump as the front man. I think this is why Trump became, you know, as famous as he was, because he was able to take the spotlight away from all the covert operations. But Merv rolls the dice. It says Merv rolls the dice. Griffin and his debt-ridden Resorts International and Casino face tough odds in the upcoming bondholders meeting. Well, I remember, if you remember, the idea for Resorts was to take all the bond debt, which was really not very good debt. It was like D or double C or something like that. Moody's was like, I don't even think we're going to rate Resorts International anymore. Moody's was a customer of mine in New York. And then Trump had the idea, or somebody had the idea, let's make it all
he's only
stock.
like 5'6". I didn't realize he
Oh,
wasn't.
Merv Griffin wasn't that tall.
Yeah.
Let's make it. Let's do stock. Let's turn all let's securitize all of the debt, the bad debt. Sort of the early Michael Milliken idea, if I'm not mistaken, with Resorts International. And I remember Resorts International's price. You remember it was 100, and then it went down to like 40 cents or something.
It was because I'm thinking the resorts there, and that was the old like Haddon Hall Hotel. They renovated, wasn't it?
Well, he had the Taj Mahal, and he had.
And this was on one of the hotels that they didn't tear down from the old city. And I was thinking it was the Haddon Hall. I think that they rechristened it as resorts, and they were like the first one to get up and running because it wasn't new construction. They were redoing because I think of the Claridge and.
I remember the boardwalk. He was fighting Atlantic City all the time. I remember one of the big things from my time there was he wanted you to be able to come in off of the freeway and be able to get a limousine in from one end and out the other, you know, kind of in a flow. And because they wouldn't make the driveway big enough, the limousine would have to come in, and then they would back out, and you'd hammerhead and turn out, and then you would bring the next limousine in. And Trump wanted that kind of clown car, you know, where you had one limousine after another and star after star after star coming out. And he didn't want the clumsy backing of the limousines. And the other thing I remember from Atlantic City was there was like a 60-foot walk from the casino to the parking garage. For some reason, they couldn't get the parking underneath from the original build plan of the casino. And these Chinese high rollers who came in with rental cars or these other high rollers had to make this walk in the dark for 60 feet or, 60 yards. Well, it doesn't sound like very far, but it goes from very nice at the casino to ghetto, really bad. And people were getting knocked over. And Trump finally had escort service.
A slum with casinos. That was Atlantic City.
Yeah, it was.
Atlantic City.
They had an escort service to make sure that the high rollers weren't getting rolled over.
The Democrats went into Atlantic City for their 1964 convention. And anyhow, there weren't enough rooms for everybody, and anyhow, the press really just slammed Atlantic City for how horrible it was, and it never recovered from that. It went into Atlantic City from 1964 on, then just went into absolute tailspin. It always had the Jersey Shore. You always had people that would go there.
Right.
But nothing had changed probably since the 20s.
Atlantic City probably had its heydays in the early 50s when all the guys were coming back from World War II and they had money to spend. And I remember going to the Jersey Shore was like, if you lived in, Hackensack or whatever, you're looking at a bunch of apartments. The place to go to the water, and you could get down there on a bus or on the train was Atlantic City.
And now you could fly to Florida at the same time that it would take you to go down on the bus or the train.
Is this the Madison Square Garden with the Nazi?
That's the auditorium in Atlantic City.
Oh, okay. This is the 64 convention. Yeah. That was the convention where right after Kennedy's assassination, where LBJ, there was all these lingering questions about the the Warren Commission.
Hello, Lyndon. Well, hello, Lyndon.
Yeah, and I remember Humphrey, and I was just a little kid at that time, so that's a little bit before my time. You're a couple years older than me, so you might have remembered that election. But I think
Yeah, because there was Goldwater. You know, that
you weren't really into Vietnam that much. You had the General Dynamics.
Any comments in there about Atlantic City and that?
I'll see.
Well,
So.
in '63, when Kennedy was killed, you only had Henry Crown and the Chicago mob and the General Dynamics mercenaries. Really, there wasn't a real big, massive. The draft had come in, I think, right in '64, where they were gonna. But you had no idea that they were going to escalate like they did in '65 and '66. I remember they were putting 350,000 a year in. But no way were the numbers anywhere close to that in '64. And you had Goldwater saying, "Let's use the bomb," the atomic bomb in Vietnam.
In that Kennedy press conference that I was watching earlier, he brought up the problem with they were having a problem with unemployment at that time. And they were, coming with steps to deal with it. And I'm wondering if Vietnam was created to be a solution to the unemployment problem. We'll just send our excess of unemployment over to Southeast Asia and get rid of it that way.
I think drugs. The Hmong had moved. Mao Zedong had kicked the Hmong drug growers out of China because he said it's okay. We make drugs for you, but we're not going to have drugs in China. So the Hmong needed to go to the upper highlands of Laos and Thailand and all these different places, and so. Now Ho Chi Minh wanted to have Vietnam and he didn't want to have the drugs. And it was like, well, you can have North Vietnam, but we got to have some place to sell drugs to U.S. soldiers. I mean, to me, the putting in all the soldiers, it's what got so many soldiers on heroin, really the cannabis.
Your political enemies. I'm almost, because it's kind of like the lefties didn't go to Vietnam.
The elite didn't. Yeah.
And they're the one, and they gave them that opportunity to take over the institutions because
the colleges and universities. Yeah. Well,
I remember when they started coming into my grade school, in the late '60s, when all of a sudden we have to get rid of the old teachers, and the
new left.
Yeah,
the new left.
Yeah.
Well, I think we see up here diamonds and silk. I don't know if that's diamond or silk, but her sister died. So Trump
I think that's silk.
Is that live or is this live?
That was earlier.
Oh, this is a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I think they're doing the same thing we're doing. We're talking about how Trump has great relationships with people of color over a long period of time, and resonating with. He just played that video. He's playing it at every one of his things. The
Warren's over, and that's just the next YouTube video.
Oh, okay. Warren's over. Okay. But I mean,
shot in Warren today.
Well, the neighborhood news van heated up a little bit, and we had to go do a little fixing. We put a little transmission.
I want to be like
leak
Mike.
Fixer.
Remember Mike? I remember Mikey from the Life cereal commercials. We got Mikey to eat it. Mikey likes everything. Remember that?
Is that why Aaron gave me the news van? give it to George. You'll drive anything. Yeah. Well, anyway, I couldn't be at Warren today because of the neighborhood news van, but I put some leak fixer in there, and looks like we have a good. We'll be able to get to the events here the last 5 days, but. I tell you, it just seems like the tricks are coming fast and furious with the dirty tricks. I mean, we just don't know, but it just feels like there's a lot of activation of Antifa types here in Michigan now. I see a lot of underhanded stuff going on.
Well, and this was the big question that we've been having is what happened to the Turning Point. At
that got canceled.
Lansing,
that's where we should be tonight. Yeah.
And we can't even figure out why it was canceled, but we don't know why or what had happened.
I got a press pass, and then they canceled the whole thing.
Was it because we were talking about burning couch and that they could maybe they were planning something there and we thwarted it by talking about it.
Yeah. I think they didn't want any any PR events that they couldn't control here with 5 days to go in the election. I think that's what it came down to is they couldn't. What if one of the Antifa would have, hit somebody or whatever, disfigured some girl or whatever, and it created a whole big thing that Trump got behind. It would swing the election. Could swing, and they need the Senate. This Senate seat with Mike Rogers could be the swing vote in the Senate if it goes 50-50, and that's really an important seat. There hasn't been a Republican senator in Michigan, I think, since 94. It's been 30 years.
Yeah.
So that is huge. And I think they just didn't want anything, especially in Lansing, where, all the political press is and all that sort of thing. If Antifa would have burned a car, even, it wouldn't have looked good. So, and Turning Point isn't the kind of group with Charlie Kirk and whatnot. They're not really the kind of group that really wants a dialogue. They want kind of it's a showmanship kind of thing. All the kids are going to be pro-choice, and Turning Point's going to be pro-life, and there's going to be nobody's going to agree, and it's going to be a big fight.
But they're going to ask the questions that make the young people dig into their their thought processes and rationalize. Well, why do you think this way?
Right.
Or,
Yeah, but it always ends up. A lot of their events end up in some violence, either outside the gates or even at their table. Sometimes they flip the tables. Turning Point's famous for putting tables out at the cafeteria or whatever, and then the tables get flipped or whatever. And I just think that they didn't want to risk it. But we were ready to go. Warren kind of came in as a fill-in, maybe because they went with the same security plan, same college. They went and advertised at the same college. So
he announced his last rallies. His last rally will be Grand Rapids, 10:30 at night, Monday. So
we'll be there.
Trump's last rally before the election.
Oh, well, maybe not. I might have to fly to Grand Rapids. I was just in Grand Rapids. JD Vance is going to Grand Rapids an awful lot and makes me think something's going to happen. Donald Trump's going to Grand Rapids. It's a beautiful city, actually, on the Grand River there. Really beautiful. Grand Rapids has really been built up lately with Spectrum Health and Corwell.
Well, he needs to go over there because Grand Rapids is like a rhino land.
Yeah.
So he's got to, try and reach out to, the Republican voters that live in Western Michigan that, may not necessarily, be supportive of Trump.
Right.
Especially, the older.
That's Eric Prince and Gerald Ford and, CIA. The CIA Republicans.
Well, we had that scandal with the Michigan Republican Party, because we had that Christina Caramo, that was in charge, and they booted her out. MAGA has been persona non grata in Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah. Where they tried 2 ballots and tried to split the vote with 2 ballots and tried to split the convention. All these crazy, childish tactics that they've tried to do to stop the Trump train. Trying to remember the party chair was represented Adrian, I thought, or not Adrian. Albion. I can't remember who the party chair is, but he flipped over and after that whole kerfuffle and said, "No, we're all MAGA, we're all and we want to make sure that we let everybody know we're dark MAGA here." You can see that Mark's shirt, dark MAGA. You can see Mark's hat, it's dark MAGA. We're for the industries of the future. We're EV trucks, the Ford Lightning and so forth. I just, not yet. I think the hybrids for a while. I think that will be. I know Elon wants to push the all electric, but dark MAGA means hybrids, right? Not all electric.
We went from vacuum tubes to transistors to whatever they are now. Okay.
But you don't have the range with the EVs.
And that's where that's what has to be created.
A truck is different than a cab. A cab goes short distances, a lot of trips, but a truck, you get 100.
But taking the battery out of a car, it's like taking an engine out of a car. It's not like, that's the kind of things that need.
In the new ones, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can take a battery out of. We did this yesterday with one of the people who came to our charrette.
Like a lithium ion battery,
Yeah, that's a different story. I just think that Elon has the inside track on the lithium battery process.
I think there's a better technology there that is waiting to be discovered.
Hydrogen is already out there.
Yeah.
BMW has a hydrogen engine already out there.
Making those things work and letting the market fight it out. So
if you think about that, that's not Elon's. I just don't think Elon is in on this just to popularize Teslas and get people to be excited about SpaceX. I think he wants subsidies from Trump. I think that's the thing that's the other shoe that's going to drop after this.
Well, then it has to be you subsidize everyone or you subsidize no one.
Well, the Democrats just subsidize their friends, Mark Zuckerberg and their high tech friends and their Hollywood friends.
That's the playing favorites kind of thing. But I mean, it's if there's going to be subsidies, then in the industry, then they need to go around. You're not.
Well, but there's some things like space where we are subbing out the launch vehicle, the lift vehicle, to Russia, right? So not a lot of people can play in that space. I mean, you got two DARPA kids, one's Bezos and the other's Elon, right? That can, put Blue Origin and SpaceX are the only two people that really can put, people in space. But do we, and look at how many they want to put 100,000 Starlink satellites up. I think there's already 30,000 up there. So, I mean, do we want terrestrial communications? Do we want, I think that gives you a lot more GPS capability, a lot more GPS bandwidth in remote places, a lot better coverage in remote rural places where it's still the internet's pretty weak. I think I'm not saying let's just build launch vehicles. I'm saying let's put the satellites up there, but these are low Earth orbit satellites. You have to.
Starlink could become a revenue source. Okay? That would pay for that would create a return on the investment.
Absolutely. Musk says the annual bill is $2 trillion. The internet's worth $2 trillion a year, and if they get 2% of that business, that's $30 billion a year. So that's a paying business. But I think there's a huge startup cost to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you got to develop the first engine. You had to develop the Falcon, and then now the Falcon is, you got to strap 9 of them together to get it up to that thing. And then all of a sudden you need Raptor because the Falcon isn't big enough and all, you know what I mean? So there's subsidies that go along with this before you can put the iron in the sky. And right now, Blue Origin is only, just going a little bit above the Kármán line and doing space tourism. So I just think that he's not wearing the MAGA hat just because he needs a black hat in his wardrobe. I think that's the other part we don't know yet. The dark agenda we don't know yet. But I think it's space. I think the hyper tunnels around the major cities, using the Cybertrucks, sort of the dumb waiters, the electrical vehicle delivery vehicles, and I think cybercabs, mandated cybercabs for the green, or whatever, livability or quiet or whatever, quality of living in the major urban areas is something he's going to push. Just my opinion. But you're wearing the dark MAGA hat. You would know better than me. So, and free enterprise worked though with your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
$25. You walked out. You came back in.
Mm-hmm.
You got can you show everybody the shirt? You missed. Okay, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. The big news today, of course, the 2 Substacks out there, georgewebb.substack.com, gwebb.substack.com. You can read all about it. It's incredible. All of it. It's so good. So much AI, so much Grok, so much Chat GPT. It's going to be crazy. We are announcing the new AP high school curriculum today. We have a curriculum partner. You can get the curriculum however you want it. Make your kid a doctor, an engineer, make your kid a nurse, etc. Watergating Trump is out there. We're going to add the wealth segments with Mark Buckley in the future. We have the neighborhood health coming online as well. As soon as the election's over, we'll have Amber Connor maybe as a contributor. So a lot going on here at Neighborhood News and Neighborhood Health and Neighborhood Wealth. Anything you want to
And
throw?
Trump still hasn't gotten shot. Thanks to
We get 2 saves at least. We get 2 saves at least. Novi is a save for sure, and Indio is a save. I'm not claiming Warren as a save, but notice how everybody is writing books about how there's only a sole shooter. Jack Posovic's out there. I know Jack from Washington. He writes a book about it and says sole shooter, and now he's saying, well, there could be a second shooter. Now looking at all the data,
And now the Secret Service doesn't want to talk about it.
and now Jack doesn't want to ask anybody who abandoned their posts. If I wanted to get to the bottom of McKinley, I'd say, who are the 4 Buffalo police officers that reported to Taft that abandoned their post? That's where I start the investigation, right? With Lincoln, the guy who abandoned his post, John Parker. Hey, who have you been talking to over the last year? Who made you abandon your post at the one time that you were guarding the president, right? The one time you were guarding the president, you could have gone off and done your thing at all these other days of the year, but the one time you decide to abandon your post is when you're guarding the president. That's where you start the investigation. Everyone's afraid to go to the source. It's the obvious place to start the investigation. Nobody will go there. And these House Republicans who were supposed to deliver this information never went there, never asked the question. They've avoided it like the plague. So anyway, we'll get to that after the election. Right now, it's all Trump, Trump, Trump. Aaron, anything that we're missing? Nope. Huge new curriculum. We're really excited. We'll bring you the curriculum provider. We'll zoom him in right now. He's in Texas working their big, massive meetings and trade shows for homeschooling in Texas right now. They're the leaders. So that's where he is in Houston. Then he's this week in Dallas at this huge conference. He'll be back in December, but that's still in time for the AP cramming to get your kids launched. Again, remember, if they're all launched in great careers, no overdosing, right? They don't die of overdoses. They're not getting involved in crime. They're not raping anybody. They're not breaking in windows. They're going on making a lot of money in the professions, and then they're paying for your retirement, and you're just sitting on the beach drinking pina coladas. So that's a much better way to go than going to visit your kid's grave every year because of the fentanyl overdose death. So we'll leave it right there. Tomorrow we don't know. Every day is a new day here at Neighborhood News. So we'll leave it right there. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks, folks.
We'll see you all later.
Here at the Neighborhood News studio, and our guy with the flags is back, which is always great to see. We had a guy just come in into the Neighborhood News studio, and he had the gun in the pocket thing, the old gangster thing, so I don't know if he had a gun or not, but he came in and he was mad because Trump, he had heard, was going to take away his Social Security. And Trump is not going to take away your Social Security. And we're not affiliated with Trump in any way. So we're not taking any campaign contributions in any way. So if you're mad at Trump, don't come here to take it out on us. But this is a totally voluntary activity because we believe this is the best choice for the future of America. But anyway, he was really angry, and he had the thing going on, he came back twice, and it's like, we're not trying to take your Social Security. I don't think Trump's going to take Social Security. But last night, while watching The Bride of Frankenstein for Halloween, exciting entertainment for my Halloween in a hotel room, 3 ads. I saw 3 ads where they said that Trump's going to take away the Social Security. And it was a slap in the face to workers. And I just can't believe, I think Trump really needs to knock that rumor down. That is a crazy rumor. I've never heard Trump say that, but it is something that did inspire somebody to come here with the Edward G. Robinson thing came in twice with the Edward G. Robinson thing and said he was going to bury all of his money, take it out of a bank and bury it in his backyard. So Trump needs to knock that rumor down. If somebody's that nuts to come here with the Edward G. Robinson twice, it's something that does need to be knocked down.